Hey everyone, nice to see you again. Thanks for being here today. We want to tell you a brand new story. Nothing about my day told me that life as I knew it was about to fall apart when I got home. As soon as I walked in the door, I knew something was wrong. The look on my wife's face as she sat on the couch was one of excitement I hadn't seen in a long time. She took off her jacket before I could even take it off. You heard her right. I've chosen to have a baby for my best friend. I'll be her surrogate for a second. I thought I misheard her because it was hard for my brain to understand what she said. She said it so casually, like she was telling me she picked up groceries on the way home, but it wasn't that casual. You didn't just drop this into the chat out of the blue. I let out a short, doubtful laugh while waiting for her to explain. Maybe it was just a thought experiment. She wasn't joking, her eyes were fixed on mine with unwavering confidence. That's when I finally got the nerve to tell her I was going to carry her baby. It's been hard for her and her husband for years. It was my body, my choice, and I could do this for her. The way she said it, like it was a done deal, hurt me more than the words themselves. There wasn't a conversation. She didn't ask me how I felt about it, she just told me what was going to happen. I had a lot of questions, but the first one that came to mind was, when are you going to talk to me about this? I snapped, you're telling me now, and she rolled her eyes as if I were making a big deal out of nothing. She sighed as if my response was expected, as if she had already acted out this conversation in her head and decided I was the unreasonable one. I don't get why this is such a big deal for you. This is my body, and I've decided to do something good and selfless. My stomach got tight. You don't understand how this helps both of us. Of course I do, she said, but her voice didn't sound real. But I'm not cheating on you. I'm just carrying a baby for someone who can't. She said it like it wasn't complicated or would have any effect on us. I took a deep breath and tried to keep my voice steady. You're telling me that I should be okay with going through pregnancy, hormone changes, doctor visits, and everything else that comes with it for almost a year? What about our lives? What about us? She snubbed him with her hand. There won't be any changes between us. I looked at her, trying to remember the woman I married, the one who would talk things over with me before making big choices. But all I saw was someone who had already moved on from our conversation before I even walked him through the door. At the very least, I should have had a say in this choice. I choked out the words and spoke through clenched teeth. She shook her head and her face turned angry. It's not about you. That was the end of the moment. I understood how little my opinion mattered in this marriage. We were no longer working together, she had made her choice and expected me to follow it. I didn't say anything else, I just stood there, feeling the weight of her words pressing down on my chest like a vice. She had made her choice, now I had to make mine. I sat down to collect my thoughts, but my wife was already moving on, acting like the conversation was over. She picked up her phone and started typing, probably texting her friend to let her know everything was okay. I wasn't even a small part of it. Please don't think that I'm okay with this. I had to force myself to talk back. She sighed and put down her phone, her face annoyed. What exactly do you want me to say? I've made up my mind. That is the issue. I fired back. You chose to do something by yourself. Do you not see why that's a problem? She crossed her arms and leaned back on the couch. I can see that you're responding too much. I don't need your approval to do what I want with this body, it's mine. It was dull to talk to a wall. I didn't want to control her or tell her what to do. I only wanted to be a part of the conversation so that my feelings would be taken into account, but every time I tried to do that, she put up a wall, blocking any real talk. You make it sound like I'm trying to control you. I told myself to keep my cool. That's not the point. This is about our marriage. We're talking about how this will affect both of our lives. She laughed. It's only 9 months a year at most if you count recovery. You look like I'm leaving you or something. There's someone else's child inside you, I know that. Do you even know what that means? The mental and physical toll. I've already thought about it after she cut me off. I almost laughed. I thought about it. Maybe, but had she really thought about what it would mean for our relationship and our home, the stress and problems it would cause? I doubted it. That's it. Do I just have to accept this? It was a low voice because I was tired. She didn't even think. Yes, just one word, one final answer that won't change. That stuck with me. She hadn't asked my opinion because she didn't want to hear it. She had already made up her mind and was set on doing this, so what I thought about it didn't matter. It was no longer just about the surrogacy. That was what our marriage had turned into, a place where she made all the big choices and expected me to just go along with them. I asked, looking for even the tiniest hint of doubt in her face, "Are you really not going to think about how I feel about this?" She rolled her eyes instead. "What you think is important to me, but in the end, this is my choice. Please don't tell me no." In her words, it seemed like that was the end of our talk and I should move on. As I watched her, I realized that nothing had changed just because of the surrogacy. Everything had changed because of how she treated me and how she thought her choices were hers and her alone, not caring about what they meant for us. After she made her choice, I began to question whether I also needed to make one. Even though days went by, I could never forget what we talked about. I kept waiting for her to bring it up again, to see how much it was bothering me, and maybe even to change her mind, not about her choice, but about how she made it. She never did, though. She thought that everything was fine and that I should just get used to it. I did my best. I told myself at first that I might be exaggerating. I tried to ignore my feelings, but they got stronger until I couldn't ignore them any longer. Maybe I'd learn to accept it over time. Things began to change between us. At first, it was quiet. The conversations got shorter. It seemed like the warmth in her voice when she talked to me was going away. We weren't really fighting. We were having trouble linking. I couldn't talk to her because she had already made up her mind. I saw that she had a lot of time with her best friend. They had always been close, but now things were different. They texted, met up, and made plans all the time. She would be on the phone when I got home, talking to someone excitedly. But when she talked to me, it was different. It was like I was just another duty or habit. I tried to talk to her about it a few times, but she ignored me. She told me once, "You're imagining things," when I told her how far away she seemed. I wasn't. I knew what it was like to be far away. It wasn't about what you said or did. There was a difference between being present and not being present. Then the plans came up. I was never asked to go with her. She went by herself or with her best friend. It felt like I had been disconnected from the whole thing and could only watch my own marriage fall apart. She came home one night sparkling and happier than I had seen her in months. "They made sure of everything," she said as she put her bag down. "They told us we're ready to begin the process." I was shocked by how hard that word hit me. We weren't a part of this. There was her friend, and me, just watching from the outside. I tried to ask her how she was feeling, if she was worried, or if she was scared about what was going to happen, but she barely paid attention to me and then moved on to something else. She was excited about more than just the surrogacy, she was excited about having a reason outside of our marriage. What was she doing for her friend was so important to her that she forgot about what was going on between us. I could feel the walls close in on me. It was no longer just feelings that separated us, it was real. That night, I knew something had changed before I went to bed. We wouldn't get through this rough patch again. After that, the weeks were full of routine. Get up, go to work, and then come home to a stranger. This is what she had turned into for me, someone I barely knew, someone who didn't seem to mind that I was pulling away from her. And the fact that she didn't seem to care might have been the worst part. Every time I felt like giving up, I told myself that I had to talk to her again. There might still be time to save the situation, but every time I spoke, I paused because I knew the answer inside. Then it happened one night. The other meeting she had just come home from, I didn't know about until she walked in with papers in her hand. She threw it on the kitchen counter like it was just another task or step in her plan, and I watched. My arms were crossed as I leaned against the doorway. "You forgot to tell me you had a meeting today, did you?" She didn't even look up as she took her shoes off. There was nothing important about the check. That's not the point. She let out an angry sigh. Then what's the point? Why are you a bother about this? I tried to keep my voice steady as I shook my head. Because you've made it clear that I have nothing to do with this. You no longer even bother to pretend. That caught her eye. She turned around and put her arms around me. I told you from the start that this was my choice. You keep acting like I owe you something because I made a choice that has nothing to do with you. My hands got tight at my sides. You know that's not what this is about. Then what was that about? She asked back. I took a big breath. It's about how you don't care about how this makes us feel. Her face became more serious. Though I care about you, I know this is important, and I won't change my mind just because you feel bad. I let her words sink in and feel heavy between us. I said with a lower voice, this isn't just about pain. That's why this is about trust, respect, and a marriage that's supposed to be a team effort, but one person sets the rules. She laughed. You think I should just give up this because you don't like it? It doesn't work that way. I truly observed her and was struck by the fact that I was no longer angry. I wasn't hurt or lied to, I was just done. Finally, I said, no, that's not how this works, and I think we both understood. I noticed a change in her expression for the first time. It wasn't sorrow or worry, it was just irritation, like I was making things harder than they needed to be. That's when I knew I had nothing left to fight for. I knew what I had to do by morning. I got up earlier than normal and dressed without making a sound. She didn't move much, and I stood there looking at her for a moment, waiting to feel something, angry, sad, or guilty, but there was nothing. All I felt was a strong certainty that I couldn't stay here any longer. As I walked out the door, I didn't say a word while leaving the house. I wasn't going to work or clear my head, I was going to take the first real step toward leaving this behind. It wasn't a hasty choice or an act of anger, it was the only choice that was available. For weeks or months, I had been the only one trying to keep our marriage together while the foundations began to crumble. But last night, I saw the truth. Getting things fixed wasn't her thing. I had already talked to a lawyer by the time I got home that night. I had made everything happen. When I walked in, she was on her phone in the kitchen. She took a quick glance up but didn't say anything. Everything else was more important than me that night and every day. Let's talk, so I put my keys on the counter. What was she thinking when she barely looked up? I told her right away, I'm leaving, which caught her attention. She finally put down her phone and frowned. What do you mean? I let out a breath and kept my voice steady. That is, I'm done, I can't go on like this. She said with narrowed eyes, you're overreacting. Yes, it was that same rude tone again, that same failure to see how much she had been pushing me away. No, I'm done, I shook my head. She blinks as if she was just now getting it that I was serious. What do you mean, you're just leaving? It made me laugh, but it wasn't funny. I really should have left a long time ago. I couldn't tell what she was thinking as she stared at me. I thought there would be anger, maybe even a fight. She just shrugged instead. What? You're giving up on our marriage because you didn't get what you wanted. That was enough for me to understand. She still couldn't see it, even though it was the end. It wasn't about getting my way, but she couldn't see that. It had to do with trust, respect, and a relationship that wasn't meant to be a partnership but had become something else. I just said, I'm not the one who gave up. She didn't say anything or try to stop me. She did nothing but watch as I turned around and left the room. I didn't look back this time. It felt strangely easy to leave that house in her. For so long, I had told myself I had to stay and figure out a way to make things better. But the truth was that there was nothing else that could be done. She had made her choice, and now it was my turn. Some days I stayed in a hotel while I thought about what to do next. I didn't rush to find a new place or fill my time with other things. I let myself deal with the truth of it. I wasn't shocked, and I wasn't waiting for a giant wave of feeling to hit me. I was done. She didn't text, call, or do anything else. I knew everything I needed to know from the silence. I got the proof I was looking for when the papers were delivered. She wasn't going to fight it. You can't beg me or try to change my mind. Just a simple statement that this was taking place. It almost made me laugh. For a long time, I wondered if leaving would make me look bad in her eyes, if she would try to make me look like I was selfish and left her. But in the end, she let me go just as easily as she had kept me out. That hurt the most. There weren't any fights or bad feelings in the end, it was just that I was so easy to substitute. I moved into a small apartment that felt more like home than our old house ever did. I knew I would miss her and feel lonely without her. I didn't feel heavy, though. After a long time, the weight I had been carrying had gone away, and I finally knew why. Before I left, I had been by myself for a long time. All of my friends and family asked me what happened. They needed to know. I kept things simple. We had different needs. It was honest. It wasn't the whole story, but it was good enough. A few people told me I should have worked harder and that marriage is about making deals. However, that was the matter. People can only compromise if they are both ready to find a middle ground. Things were only being held together by me, and you can't save something if the other person doesn't care if it breaks. She moved on, or maybe she had moved on a long time before I left. I didn't waste time thinking about her either way. She made it clear what was most important to her, and I did the same for myself for the first time in a long time. I didn't feel bad about leaving because it wasn't easy or because it didn't hurt. It was necessary, and that was enough. Our story is over. Do you want to join our group if you've made it this far? It really helps us a lot. I've picked out 2 more videos that I think you'll enjoy. You are welcome to click on them. I look forward to seeing you in the next story. Have a nice day.